Welcome to the Work in Progress podcast. This is a space where we want to create conversations around things that actually matter. Thanks for joining us today. We hope these words encourage you to know that no matter where we are in our journeys, we're all still a work in progress.
We are back in the podcast studio. It's Aaron, Daniel. We're back with the Work in Progress episode. Sorry it has been so long. I think the last episode that we put out was September 26th because some crazy stuff happened. Woo! Tell us, Aaron, what has happened in your life since September 26th?
Nothing much, dude. Let's see. I had a couple of different jobs. Family came into town. We had a baby. Nothing much. Nothing major.
Nothing major like a baby.
Like a baby that rocked my world.
That's right. So we posted it online a month and a half ago whenever she got here.
Right. Yeah.
And Aaron and his wife Taylor welcomed their first child into the world. Ooh. She's a precious little baby. So if you haven't seen her yet, it's because you probably don't go to our church. Shame. But you can still, it's not too late. You can still hang out and meet her. She's awesome.
True that.
Congratulations to Taylor, who of course carries she did most of the work.
Yep.
And so props to Taylor.
Yeah.
Welcoming do you want her name in this stratosphere?
Yeah, bro. It ain't changing. So.
Okay.
Mila, her name is Mila James Villa. She was 5 pounds, 6 ounces when we left the hospital. 5 pounds, 12 ounces when she was born. And now she's just about 8 pounds. She's getting beefy. She's trying to catch up to your guy.
And so now Raph has another friend to welcome into the fold.
Yeah.
They've already been hanging out. It's been great.
It's crazy, man.
It's been great.
That's it's a perfect segue into the topic of this episode, man, because we're talking about like seasons in life changing.
Yeah. Well, let's be honest. Like from ages 18 to 30, 35, you go through probably more change in that season of life than you'll ever experience anything outside of that. In life. And so it's an important topic to talk about. Like, what is it? How do we handle it? How do we look to? How do we process? Just seasons of change.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, man. And some of it's welcome. Some of it's unwelcome. Some of it's expected. Some of it's not expected. Of course, with a baby, you have 9 months to plan.
Yeah.
And you can't really plan. We heard it. I'm sure you heard it a ton. You can't plan with a baby. You can plan a lot of things leading up to and when the baby's here, right? Like things that don't require you to not have to do with the changing of the diapers or the feeding, other things. But man, I'll tell you what, like I'll just dive in, man. That's been the biggest thing in our life that's happened. We've moved, a little bit, just houses, same town or similar town. And we've been in a pretty consistent state of rhythm for the last couple of years. And so when the baby was on the way and when she was here, she was actually a little over a month early. Mm-hmm. And so I was preparing to plan, but
did you have your hospital bag packed? Yes or no?
I didn't. Taylor did, if that tells you anything.
That's good.
She packed it the weekend before, and I packed it the morning we left.
Dude, mothers know.
Dude, I don't know what the heck. It was unexpected, like all the process of her getting here, having birth was just like, oh my gosh, dude, it was unexpected. It was a random Friday. Yeah. And we were going to go bowling that night or like play, arcade games at an arcade. And
not so fast.
No, our plans changed. But not man, it's been great. And I think leading into this season of change, it's been a whirlwind, man. It's been a whirlwind, but it's been crazy. Yeah,
change is one of those things that it's inevitable. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
And like you said, sometimes we can plan for it, sometimes we can't. And so really we just want to take some time today to just kind of share from some of our experiences of how we have maybe done well through change, maybe how we've not done well through change, and then also make it super practical. I think now that I'm on the other side of 30, 31, and so I look back on those seasons of change, and I know there's definitely some areas that we missed it. But really, you could probably talk for an hour and a half, 2 hours on change and seasons of change, and we're not going to get into all the details. But I will say this: I think in all the change that we've had in our life, whether that's a change of careers, moving, I think last time we counted, Lauren and I, since we've been married, have moved to 7 different houses / apartments, maybe. And so like we've done a lot of change, and of course welcomed our son 8 months ago. I mean, it's just a lot of change happens, and I think the one thing, the key that I want to really like focus in on is when we face seasons of change in our life, when we go through these seasons of change, it's so easy to lose focus on what's actually important.
Right.
Right. And you'll notice this, like as you walk through these seasons of life, how easy it is to say you're too busy or you have too much on your plate or there's too much change going on and you start neglecting like showing up in community.
Right.
You neglect like showing up for church or being active. You neglect like reading scripture and practicing your spiritual disciplines. And so really that's like where I want to camp for the next, couple of minutes. And let's just talk about what are some things, what are some warnings, guardrails, maybe some stuff that you've put into place and you're literally in a season of change right now to where you don't lose focus on what's important. So just kind of walk me through again. You're in this season right now, so just kind of tell me a little bit about where you guys are.
Yeah. And I'll preface with like, this hasn't been perfect. Of course, the first couple of days or weeks, we were all over the place.
Yep.
But the thought was running through my head the whole time, right? Like we have got to stick to the fundamentals of life, honestly, of living a godly life. And so for us, that means staying in the Word, right? And I think, there's a period of time when you have a child that you can't let them be around large groups of people. So going to church physically was a little out of the question for at least one of us and the baby. But as a family, we decided to stay together and it's navigating all new times. So basically what we've been doing is making sure we're in the Word daily. And that's challenging too, because you're super tired, you're sleep deprived, you're probably hungry,
sure.
You're a little bit annoyed. It's like, why would I make time for this when I don't even have any sleep? Like I could be sleeping during that time, or I could be doing something else. But that's a staple of our faith. That's a staple of like understanding and remembering God's heart, God's trust, and His love for us. And so that's been something that's been really key for us. And then, of course, the community aspect.
Yep.
When we can, we try to surround ourselves with people, and that includes you and your family. That's been a huge help. Other friends in smaller groups until we're able to bring our girl into larger crowds of people or just like, larger groups. But those have been the biggest things, man, is like making sure to ask for like community, ask people to come over, and then staying in the Word as much as we can, because it's very easy for that to be the first thing that slips aside. Both of those things, but mainly that's mainly the first thing anybody puts aside when anything new happens is like.
It's funny that you bring up both of those two things because it's been a long time since we filmed an episode, but we did a couple episodes a while back where we talked about like how important it is to have like daily scripture and reading the Bible and why it's important to have those things. So if you're interested in that, go check out that episode. We talked a lot more about why it's important to read and learn and to meditate on scripture. We've also talked a lot. I feel like we talk a lot about the importance of community. Yeah. And I think like when you begin to think about life change and these seasons of life change, like I think the thing that we see most often is when something happens in life, there's a change, there's a drastic shift, whether you planned on it or not, our go-to is to remove ourselves from community. And I think that's like that's what the devil wants us to do. Like he wants us to get out of community. Yeah. He wants us to be away from those people that are holding us accountable. He wants away from those people that are going to encourage us and motivate us. And so I think it's funny that you said both of those, because I think both of those are super important, and we've talked about them a ton in the last year or so of doing this podcast. And so, yeah, I think that echoes to like the season you're in, the season of life, like the age of life that you're in, how important those two things are. And yeah, I think if anybody that's listening is thinking back to their own times, their own seasons where things have changed, think about the times that you've done it well and the times you've not done it well. Right. Like I can think back to like even college, like right, transitioning from high school to college, which you're transitioning from being at home to being on your own. And like what happens is like when you remove yourself from a community, like you don't get plugged into a church or you don't seek out those friendships, life isn't good. Like that transition doesn't turn out healthy. That season is not healthy. And so I just think back to all these different moments in the last 10 years of big life changes and how it comes down to, it's a pretty simple formula. When you stay in the Word, you stay in Scripture, you stay in your spiritual disciplines, and you stay in community.
Yeah.
And those seasons, those transition stages of life, they're just that much better. And so, it's funny that you said those two things.
That's good though, man. And the cool thing about the spiritual disciplines is that they're disciplined, right? So that you don't really need anything there to do them other than the will to say, I've committed to this, like I love God, I love Jesus, and I want to learn more about him.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do it. You don't need to be in a certain place or a certain location or in church to do it. That's the cool thing about the Word, man. It's
For sure.
Even you gave me these bracelets, bro. These Bible, what's it called? The Bible Memory Project?
Bible Memory Project, yeah.
So like
shout out to them.
Yeah, man. Like you gave me these, and like when I couldn't actually open my Bible and read it, I was able to look at these and say, okay, like I know there's some scripture here on my wrist. I have this reminder, and I was actually struggling with like the one you gave me was gluttony. Like gluttony. That's something I kind of struggle with, is like just overeating. You feed into that, bro. You make it worse. No, but like the week you gave me was gluttony. So all these verses have to do with overcoming gluttony and being disciplined and not relying on that to get me through anything. And so whenever I was like sleep deprived or tired and needed to stay up, I was just eating. So super helpful.
Yeah, I think I don't feed into that. I offer you a chance for self-control. I put delicious charcuterie boards like out whenever him and his wife come over, and then and I have to help him have some self-control. But I think like as you talk about these like seasons of change, these seasons where like life is different, I think there's 3 super practical things that that we could talk about. And you kind of already hit on them already, but I'm going to say them anyways because I have all 3 of them already written down. So if you are walking into a season that you know is a transition season where your life is changing, or maybe you're thinking like, well, I'm in that age range. Yeah. And so I just know that life change is going to happen. Yep. I want to give you 3 quick practical things. And so I'm going to read them all up here on the top, and then we're going to go back and visit each one. So 3 practicals on how to actually keep your focus and stay healthy during these seasons of change. So number 1, plan ahead. Plan ahead. I'm a planner, so that comes a little easier than for some, but plan ahead. And I know you can't always plan ahead, but at least if you've thought through this, you at least have a way to plan ahead. Number 2, take time and think about the spiritual disciplines you are currently involved in. All right, so think about those things. And then number 3, ask for help. All right, so 3 things. 1, plan ahead. 2, think through spiritual disciplines, and then 3, ask for help. Mm-hmm. And so real quick, I'm just going to run through those. When I talk about plan ahead, what I mean is put people in your life that are going to hold you accountable. Mm-hmm. Put people in your life that you know they're going to be able to help you out in these seasons of change. Like, for example, like you talked about having a baby, like, right? So there's people in your life that you invited in to help you in that season, whether that's providing food or somebody to come and hold a baby for a couple hours so that you and your wife can sleep, or, these things that you put into place. That could also be like, hey, I know that I am in the process of buying my first house or moving into a new career or moving into a new job. Mm-hmm. Why don't I go and I reach out to somebody who I know has already made that decision, who's already walked through that, and let them talk to me about, these are some pitfalls to avoid. Like, these are some pitfalls that you want to avoid. These are some areas that you want to definitely press into. Yeah. Like, right, go and plan ahead. Okay, number 1, plan ahead. Number 2, we talked about spiritual disciplines quite a bit, and so really I want to give you an example of this. So one of my neighbors, I talked to him a couple weeks back, and I invited him to church, and he told me he was a Christian and believer and moved here, but his work schedule, he always works Sundays, right? And so when I told him, like, hey, I'd love for you to come to church, and he's like, well, I work Sundays. He's like, but, I've done this thing. And so he invited me into this. And he said, but I've done this thing where every week, depending on my work schedule, I actually host a men's Bible study, right? And so what he's done is he's taken that community that he's missing out on. He's taking the teaching of the word that he's missing out on, and he's actually going and he's just changing the day, right? And so he's having these moments. Now, I'm not saying like to neglect gathering at church, but if you're in a season where like, hey, for the next month you're going to be working Sundays, plan ahead and don't miss out on that spiritual discipline, right? So there's so many ways, there's so many creative ways you can find to still practice spiritual disciplines. So do that, whether that's through finding scripture memory bands or connecting with people that you can Bible study with, or maybe if you can't go to church on Sunday, but you can do life groups or community groups throughout the week, that's great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
There's also like YouTube, right? So most churches now record their stuff, and so you can go through and you can watch the sermon and still be caught right back up.
YouTube.com.
That's right. YouTube.com. There's a sponsor of the podcast, I think, maybe. And then number 3, ask for help. For me, this is the hardest one of the 3 because you have to have a certain level of humility to ask for help. Yeah. Right. And so when you go through these seasons of change, it's recognizing that, number 1, you can't do it on your own. Like you can't navigate through all of life's changes on your own. And so lowering yourself, coming at this in a state of humility, speaks volumes. And then you actually get to get help from people. Like it's amazing when you ask people for help, how oftentimes they actually want to give you help. And so I know you've already talked about it, just like how people have shown up to help in this season of change. But I think that's huge. And so I think those 3 things, plan ahead, think through your spiritual disciplines, and asking for help can actually lead you through a healthy season of change. Yeah,
I agree, man. And like, just to wrap things up, I think what I'm hearing when you say that is just be proactive with it, because if in each of these things you can be proactive. If you know you're one that's not inclined to ask for help, then like, how can you be proactive in saying, hey, Daniel, like, man, I got this thing coming up. I'm not going to really want to ask for help, but could you like encourage me, or could you come? Yeah. Like, that's an easy way to be proactive. And with all the other ones, when it comes to planning ahead, just don't let life come at you. You know what I mean? Like, like be prepared for stuff. Those are great points, man. I think that you nailed those. And honestly, those are like, we find that in scripture all the time too. And
for sure.
We find God giving people like the wisdom to do these things. And so if God points us to it, then it can only be good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Don't lose focus on what truly matters. In this season of life, in these years of your life, you're going to experience big areas of change. You're going to. And so I think this is just kind of some good advice that I've been given, that I've lived out, and I've seen it actually come through as like, oh, that made that season that much easier. And so take that, hopefully. If this, of course, like we say, if this stuff is beneficial for you, we'd love if you'd share it, because if it's beneficial for you, then hopefully it's beneficial for people around you. And so share it. Share these 3 things. You can share the podcast or whatever.
If you have any more tips, that's also helpful to put in the
We'd
comments.
also, love to hear about y'all's seasons and what you've done to stay focused on what truly matters, your relationship with Christ. And so, like we typically do, we're going to wrap up with our creative corner. Before the podcast, Aaron he said he didn't have a creator.
I got it, bro.
Wow. And so I'm going to go first. Last month, my guy Holvey released an EP that was really good. Harry Lane Pack. So go check it out if you like hip hop. Really good. There's a song on there called "More of You" with Aha, and it's it's awesome. Crazy. Right. So it's just a little EP. Go check it out. It'll take you all of 20, 25 minutes. Listen to the whole thing. So check it out. That's my creative of this week. And while Aaron is still searching for his, I can see his phone.
No, I got one right
swiping and searching right now, trying to find somebody here really quick.
I'm trying to find the name of it, bro. Come on.
Dun dun.
Default. Followed latest. There we go.
Oh, no.
It's a golf account, man. You're going to like this. It's called Fairway Fish. And it's a Christian golf.
Come on.
Let's go, dude. Let's go.
Send me that.
They have apparel, and in the apparel it has Bible verses written on awesome. On the interior of it, and the outside of it looks pretty cool. And their logo is like a T flag, but the flag, instead of it actually being a flag, it's a fish.
That's great. I'm expecting something for Christmas from there. It's fantastic.
There you go.
Hey, thank you guys for being patient as we navigated life change. Thank you guys for your support and listening. Again, like we always say, if you have topics or things you'd like for us to discuss, reach out. Send us a message. We'd love to be able to talk about things that you actually want us to talk about. So hopefully this helped. And until next time,
we'll be back.
We'll be back.
No more breaks this year. We're good.
No more breaks this year. Book it. No more breaks this year. All right. See you guys.
All right, bye.